Hello wonderful people, it's Wild here. In today's video I'm going to be showing you how to build a simple but beautiful starter house using easy to find items from any biome. This house can be designed to fit any variant to match with any biome you might find yourself in. All of the supplies are easy to get, making it a great way to start off the game. I'm going to begin by showing you how to build the oak variant of this house, but then I'll show you several different ideas for swapping out supplies, and remember you can swap out any of these materials to achieve completely different looks, so if you create your own idea, make sure you share a picture over in Discord. There are so many biomes you might find yourself in Minecraft, so don't forget you can always switch out supplies to make this work for any, including acacia, jungle, or even a mangrove house. They will all look great with this build. If you would like a world download for this, make sure you check out the link to my Patreon in the description below, and let's get creating. The materials you'll need for the oak variant are on your screen now. Keep in mind that for switching it out for another biome, you'll just need to swap out the biome specific things like the oak wood for whatever supplies you have. So for example, oak planks for birch planks. Here is the outline for today's build. You can see that we've got a 7x7 square marked in there with a doorway off to the left hand side, and then we've got some locations of posts marked in. The smaller gaps there are 3 blocks, and then the larger gap is 5 blocks. I'm going to be building the oak variant of this house, so I'm starting with oak logs, but of course you can swap out these supplies to whatever style of starter house you're creating. I'm starting by building up 4 high on each of these post locations and the corners of our square with my oak logs. Now that I've got all of those marked in, I'm going to connect them all up with a beam like this. You can see I'm also going across in between. So we're going to be creating a bunch of rectangles and squares. There we go. I'm also going to make sure I have an oak log coming out of the top of each of the posts in the joins. Now we've got the framing in place, let's add in some walls. We're going to start by placing some cobblestone around the base of our 7x7 square. So we're placing 5 on each side here. And then of course for this section where we have our doorway, we've got to leave this 1 block gap. Then I'm going to come around to the front of the build to add in where my window's going. I'm going to place a single glass pane in the center, and then I'm going to place a stripped oak log to either side and then 2 to either side of that. Then I've got some oak stairs. I'm going to place 2 upside down on either side of the window and 1 right way up, and this is going to create a sort of archway design. I can also come inside the build now, and I'm going to start filling in this floor with some polished diorite. Now you could save on resources here by swapping out this polished diorite for polished diorite slabs, as they use up less supplies, and I'm not going into the doorway here. Back outside and working on the walls now, I'm going to be filling in the rest with some more of these stripped oak logs, and I'm placing them all vertically like this. When I come around to this side where we've got our doorway, I'll just need to place 1 down from the top, leaving that 2 high gap. I'm going to come inside the build and place in a torch here and a torch here. And then I'm going to add in a staircase going up this back wall. So I'm going to leave this gap free, add in my first stair, place one upside down, and zigzag my way up to here, placing in the last stair. Then I need to add in a stripped oak log like this, an upside down stair, and I'm going to place in 1 more here and 1 more upside down stair. So our staircase will look like this. I can then fill in all around here with my oak slabs to create the floor for the next story, making sure I leave the gap over the top of the staircase. So let's have just 1 slab here, and then we've got this gap. We're going to be using some oak trapdoors to create a railing. So I'm placing them with a block free beside this stair. You should be able to place a block on top, as well as here you should be able to place a block on top. Then I'm going to place in just a couple of temporary blocks, one here and one here. I'm just using some oak logs, but you could use anything you like, dirt would work well. And I'm going to place in 3 more trapdoors to flip down. You should be able to place blocks along this side except for this gap because we have this trapdoor here. If we come back down the stairs, I'm also going to use these oak trapdoors to create a railing on the lower side. I'm back outside the build again, and I'm going to fill in these 2 gaps with some more of these oak slabs. And I'm going to take oak slabs and we're going around the border like this. You can see I'm leaving the corners out here. I'm going to leave this side clear because we have a staircase coming in that side, but I will add on to this corner. So we should have a platform like this. Let's go ahead and add in that staircase over on this side. I'm going to start by placing in 1 slab here, followed by an upside down stair. Then I'm going to place in a couple more zigzagging down. And then I'm going to stop with 1 block spare. I'll add in a couple slabs coming this way. Then I'll place in an upside down stair facing this direction, and I'm going to finish off this staircase. So it goes up and then in the other direction. Now I've got to add on some railing, so we've got some oak trapdoors on this side, and I'm going to place in a temporary block. I've just grabbed out some white wool to use here to place in there and there. For this trapdoor, I'm placing it onto this slab, and I can remove the temporary block. And then we've got some more railing coming up this side. Let me add in a couple more temporary blocks to place in these trapdoors, and I'm going to make sure I place 1 down here as well. So here's how this staircase should look. We're ready to start adding in the second story now. So I'm going to add 4 oak logs, 1, 2, 3, 4, on top of each of the posts we already have in place. And then, just like before, once I've got all of these posts in, we're going to connect all of these up to create our panels. And I'm connecting up across this way as well. So we've got some framework in now, so we can start adding in the walls themselves. I'm going to first go to this wall where we have our staircase, and I'm going to build across 3 blocks from this side and 1 block here, leaving this gap for our doorway. I'm then going to fill in the rest of the wall with my planks. Simply like this. Coming around to the front now, let's add in this next wall, and in fact we're going to go all the way around the build now with some of our stripped logs. We're just going 1 layer high. Let's add in the glass for the windows, so on the front and back wall where it is 5 blocks across, we have a glass pane in the center. This wall here, we don't have a window. We have a 2 high window here on the front, a 1 high window around on this side in the center, a 1 high window in the center of this 5 wide wall, and then finally another 2 high window on the back of this 3 wide panel. Next, I'm going to take some oak stairs, and we're going to start here on the back where we have this 1 wide window in the 5 wide wall. I'm going to be placing a stair directly on top like this, and then 2 stairs to either side upside down. I can then fill in the rest of the wall with my oak planks, and it's going to create a sort of archway design. I'm going to do the same thing on the front. And while I'm here, I can fill in this wall entirely. And then on these 2 1 high windows, we're going to do the same thing. And fill in our wall with planks. So they'll look like this. Now for the other 2 windows and filling in the walls, we're just going to go ahead and add in our planks on either side. And we should have all of our walls filled in now. We're going to prepare for adding in the next story now, so I'm going to place in a few torches to begin with. And I'm going to add one above the doorway here as well. Then I'm going to take some slabs and we're going to fill in each of these panels, creating the floor for the next story. When I come to this largest 5x5 panel, I'm going to add a ladder beside my doorway here, so I need to leave that gap free. But I can fill in the rest. So for this last story, we're going to be having it as an attic sort of space. So we're creating gables in 4 places for our walls, as well as some dormer windows on this side. Let's start with the smallest gables. We're going to come to this 3 wide section and I'm building up 2 high, then 1 out, and I'm going to add a plank to either side here and here. And I'm going to do the same thing on the back side. Plank and plank. Now for these 2 end walls, which are 5 wide, so we've got 1 here and 1 above our doorway. I'm going to build up 2 high first, then 4 high. And I'll do the same thing coming in on this side. Then I'm going to build up to the same height like this and add 3 on top. 1, 2, 3. Apologies for those ghost blocks, but this is how the gable should look. I'm going to be having logs coming out 2 from the top, and I'll create the same shape on the other side. So once again, we'll have 2, then 4. Then we'll build up to the same height and add an additional 3 and build out 2. Just like this. I'm going to take a few more oak logs and have them come out at the base just like this, as well as on the other side. And then on the smaller gables as well. 1 here and 1 here. 1 here and 1 here. Now we need to add in these 2 dormers. So let's start on the front. These are going to be matching, so once we've got 1 in, we can just copy it for the other. I'm starting by placing some temporary blocks on either side of the window, set 1 back. That way I can add in a couple logs, and then I can remove those blocks. I'm going to add 4 blocks going up. We've got logs facing forward and then logs facing up. Then I'm going to leave a 1 block gap and add in a stripped oak log here. We're going to have a glass above that, and then we're going to build up 3 high, 1, 2, 3 with our planks. I'm going to have logs coming out from either side at the top here like this. And then coming backwards, I'm going to have 2 planks going down on either side. Let's repeat this on the back. We add in our temporary blocks first with our first logs and then add in 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. One, 2, 3. Then we've got a couple extra logs, and finally the planks back here. So here's how it should be looking. We're now ready to add the roof onto this building. I've already placed in a few torches to make sure we don't have mobs spawning, and we're going to be creating a texture that looks like this. You can see it's a mixture between regular diorite and polished diorite, or whatever roofing material you're using. The idea is to add a bit of visual interest by having the 2 different texture blocks. We're then going to be using cobblestone to create an edge, and in fact, let's start with that. I've got my cobblestone stairs here, and I'm starting on this corner by wrapping around the stairs like this. And you can see I'm just coming 1 out from the gable where we've got these logs, as well as on this side. Let's do this small gable first. I'm just going to zigzag my way up to the top like this, and back down again. And I'm going to continue these stairs along here, making sure I wrap them around to create a corner stair. At the very top, I'm going to add on a stair, an upside down stair, and then a wall. There we go. I'm going to come back around to the back side of the build, and I'm going to start by placing in a cobblestone block in this corner, and then I can continue these stairs just like we had on the other side. When I get down to this section, I'm going to place in my stair and then turn it around so I can come over this way. And then once again, I'm going to add my stairs on top with the wall. There we go. Now for these large gables, we're going to be following the shape created by the wall. So first we have a block, then we have a stair and an upside down stair, block, stair, upside down stair. Then we're going to need 2 blocks to reach up, and then we've got another stair. Let's come back up the other side doing the same thing. and a stair. Now to finish this one off, we're going to have a block. Then we're going to have a stair with an upside down stair and a wall, just like we did on the smaller roofs. So we've got this shape, and this is how it looks from the end. Let's go ahead and create this same design on the other large gable. So we're starting with our block and our stairs. And here's how the edging is looking now. We've got this one all connected up. Now for these dormer windows, they're going to be separate from this cobblestone layer, but let's add it in. I'm going to be placing the first stair onto this block and coming back 3 like this. Then we're just going to come up with a stair here, and let's do the same on the other side. We'll add in a slab in the center. Then we're going to have our 2 stairs and our wall just like before. Let's do the same on this back one. There we are. Now we're ready to switch over to the diorite, and I'm just going in with my plain diorite first, and then I'll add in the texture. I'm going to start on this smaller gable here at the front, and I'm going to be building back just till I reach the edge where we have the next roof joining on. And I'm only building up these 2 layers. We're going to have cobble along the top. Now we need to join it onto the larger gable. So the first layer here is going to be a block. So let's add this in. And I'm going underneath the dormer here as well. Then we've got a stair next. So let's add in that layer. And you can see this will connect up nicely. Next, we have another layer of blocks, and I'm going to go all the way across here. You can see I'm going to run into the side of this dormer window, and I'm leaving this block free. Let's add in the blocks coming on this side, and then we've got some stairs again. Now that we're this far up, let's add in our cobblestone slabs along the top of this small roof. Back to this roof, I'm going to build up 2 high for the next layer. And as we come along, we're going to join onto this dormer window. So I'm going to place in this block, and then I can go ahead and add in these stairs. Let's go ahead and do the other side. And our 2 stairs. Then we've got stairs coming along this next layer, and I'm just going to go right over the top, because then I can go ahead and add in my 2 cobblestone slabs. We're almost at the top, and I'm going to stop here and move over to the back side. Let's start in this tricky little corner. So we're going to place in a diorite block first, then we've got our stairs, and this will wrap around like this. Then we've got a layer of blocks for the larger gable, so let's add them in, and they're just going to go straight across because we have a slab on top of here. To fill in this section, let's add in our diorite blocks first, then our stairs, and then we're back up to blocks. From here, we're just following the shape created by this larger gable and connecting up to our small dormer. So we're up to stairs for our next layer. Then we've got 2 layers of blocks. Add in our stairs here, and stairs along the top. And we'll finish off with cobble here. Now for the very top of this roof, we're going to have 1 more layer of our diorite blocks. And we'll finish off with a layer of cobblestone slabs. Now let's take a step back. Our whole roof should be filled in now. Now you can leave it here if you'd like, but I like to add some more interest and texture by adding in some polished diorite blocks and stairs. So I'm just going to go ahead and add a few here and there. The idea is to get a kind of worn texture. The idea when creating texture is to take a step back every now and then, check how you like it, and don't be afraid to make changes as you go. This process can take a little bit of time, but it really is worth it. So let's keep adding this in. Take a step back, have a look, and then continue. I like to keep my distribution of each of the materials fairly consistent across the whole roof. That way it just feels like it all goes together and is purposeful. And I'm making sure that I'm not mirroring the supplies used on the other side. I think that looks pretty good. I might add in maybe 1 or 2 more blocks up here. 1 there and 1 here. That's good. Over to the back side now to do the exact same thing. The roof is complete, so now we need to add in all of the details to really bring this build to life. Let's start down here on the lower level where we're going to have a fenced in section. I'm going to add in some diorite walls first, and these are going to go almost all the way around the build on these posts. I'm just going to leave this one side free. I'm then going to add oak fences on top of all of these, going up to the height of the logs. Almost all the way around, and once again leaving this side clear. I'm going to add in an extra log 1 block away on this side, and I can add an oak fence here, here, and here, and a gate in here. I'm going to add a slab on top of that log. Next, I'm going to be taking some stairs, and we're going to be creating little archways like this under each of these gaps, as well as this 5 wide gap. We'll have some trapdoors next. You can see I'm adding 2 to the 5 wide gap. And then on this back 3 wide wall, I'm going to have trapdoors coming all the way down to the ground. And flip, flip, flip. There we are. It'll look like this from the inside. For the fences, we're going to be having a fence on either side and then gates like this. This makes it easy to move animals in and out of your pen. There we go, we've got a fenced in area now. I'm going to come inside the fenced in area now, and we need to add in our doorway. For the decoration above here, I'm going to be adding in some campfires, which I'll then right click with a shovel to put out. I'm using an oak door placed from the inside, and it should open outwards like this, so I've placed it onto the grass block. And I'm going to hang a lantern from this beam here. Next, I've got some coarse dirt and hay, and I'm just going to add a little bit of texture to the floor. This helps to differentiate it from its surroundings. There we go. And the hay and the dirt just make sense for the purpose of this area. It's up to you how much or how little you add of each of these supplies. Let's see, I think that's looking pretty good. I might add in maybe a little bit more hay. 1 there maybe. Let's take a step back. I think we need some over here. I think that looks pretty good now. I'm going to come out of my pen area, and we're going to come over to the staircase to decorate this door. Once again, we're using some campfires. And I'm going to hang a lantern from this side. For the doorway, I'm using an oak door, once again placed from the inside onto this oak log. Coming back outside now to continue the decorations for this level, I've got some lecterns, and where we have a gable like this, I'm going to be placing the lecterns facing inwards so you can't see the red carpet and books. We've got 2 on this side. Then I'll add a cobblestone wall on top and a fence on top of that. So it'll look like that. So we're not going to have a lectern on this side as there's no gable, but we will have one here at the front. I'm not going to have a lectern here as this isn't connected to a gable, but these 2 are. I'll go back in and add in my walls and fences in a minute. Again, these 2 are connected to a gable, so we've got our lecterns. But this last one is not. Let's add in the rest of the decorations onto these lecterns. So for the remaining posts, we're going to add a wall and then our fences. Just like this. Next up, we're going to add some planters to this level. So underneath our 1 wide windows on these 5 wide walls, we have a 3 wide planter. We have another one of these at the back. And for the planters, I'm just using coarse dirt surrounded by trapdoors. We are going to skip over this one for now. We'll come back there later, but I'm going to add in one on this side. Again, it's 3 wide. And then for our remaining windows, we're just going to have 1 coarse dirt surrounded by trapdoors directly underneath the window. That includes this little window here. To add to the decorations on these 2 high windows, I'm going to use a temporary block to add a campfire placed from the other direction so that these 2 logs facing outwards are on the top, and then of course I'll put it out with my shovel. Don't forget to do the back one as well. There we are. We have 1 more planter and that's going to go on our door side wall. I'm going to be placing in an oak trapdoor onto this log here. Then we've got our coarse dirt and then a couple more trapdoors to surround the other sides. You should still be able to walk up the staircase and you can check that you've built this right by walking up your stairs. Perfect. Alright, let's come out and we're going to work on these gables. We've got oak slabs going across this way like this. Then we're going to have a gable in here. We'll have a cobblestone wall on top and then we'll build up to the top with oak fences. Same thing on the other side. Next, we need to decorate our little dormer windows. So I'm going to start by placing in a slab at the top between these 2 logs. Then I'm going to use a temporary block to place a campfire the opposite direction with these logs facing out like we had on these 2 high windows down here. I'm going to add a coarse dirt planter. And then a couple of fences, one here and one here. Just like this. Let's do the same thing on the back. And while we've got these planter building supplies, we are going to add in a couple more planters. Here where we've got this almost trellis looking wall out of the trapdoors, we're going to be adding in a 3 wide planter, and then we've got trapdoors in front. Then coming back around to the front of the build, where we have this little window, I'm going to be placing a planter off to this side. Now we're going to add a little hay or wood store here at the back of the build where we've got this blank wall. I'm going to start by placing in a temporary block on top of this log here. Then I'm going to have 2 campfires coming to the side. I'm going to be placing a temporary block out like this so I can place 1 facing the opposite direction, and then we have 1 more campfire after that. Let's put these out and you can see the change in direction there. I'm going to come down a layer and we're going to add in a layer of slabs along the top. And again, we need to add in some campfires. So we've got 1 this way. Then I'm going to build out, add 1 in the opposite direction, and then 2 more to finish it off. Let's put these out and remove these blocks. To add a bit more texture, I'm going to add in a couple of trapdoors like this. And we need to add some posts using some cobblestone walls and make sure we have a 2 block gap between them, and finishing off with a couple of oak fences. There we are. Now you could grab some logs if you'd like, but I'm going to grab hay and I'm just going to place a little pile of them down in here. And 1 there. Our build is really coming together now, but we need to add on a chimney, and that's going on the back wall. I'm going to find roughly where we have this small gable, and I'm going to come up to the section of roof above that. We have this 2 high section. I'm going to come to the cobblestone edge, count in 1 block, then on the block next to that, so that's just here. You can see there's a 1 block gap. I'm adding in a cobblestone stair. Then we'll have cobblestone and another stair, an upside down stair, and 2 more cobblestone on top. Finishing off with a campfire surrounded by some trapdoors. And the smoke is a really nice touch to this build. Another great way to add ambiance to a build is with some lanterns, so I'm going to be hanging some from each of my gables, and I'll use chains to hang them from these stairs. Down here, just underneath that log, and 1 more up the top here. And it adds such a wonderful warm glow, and you can see your build at night too, which is super useful in survival. Alright, let's add the last few details and check out this build and its other biome variants. So here we can see all the finishing touches I've added. Of course, I'm in an oak biome here, so I've used some oak leaves to add a little bit of greenery to the roof. Then I've selected flowers that I can find in the biome around me to add to my planters. So we've got some roses, some dandelions, some ferns, we've got some of these oxeye daisies, and then for a pop of blue, we've got some of these cornflowers. Now for decoration around the outside of this build, I've brought the greenery down by adding in some leaves, and then I've planted some fields of wheat. Now of course, to fit in more farms, you could perhaps have a farming district in the area in front or behind your house, or you could have a basement level with some automatic farms. I think a really cute detail to add is a little scarecrow like this one, and I've gone with colours found in the build. And I've placed a little seating area just behind my house as well. From above, you can see that I've added in this rustic pathway leading from the front door and this staircase outwards, and you can see it kind of wears away. I've also got the pathway joining on to the pen area underneath here, and I've added in some coarse dirt just to tie it all together. And of course, I've brought in a few animals down here, and it looks like they're having a little bit of a dance party. The next biome variant I've created is this dark oak one. So in a dark oak forest, we have access to both dark oak trees and oak trees. So I've used oak for the roof instead of the diorite here, and I think this adds a nice contrast from the darker tones in the walls. You can also see that I've kept the fences in the oak shade, and that helps to tie in with the roof, but for everything else, I've just switched it out to oak. You can also see that instead of lecterns in this build, I've gone with these grindstones because they have this dark oak accent and it all ties together very nicely. I've just got 1 more flower to switch out for this variant, and you can see that I've gone with simply red and green for this house. We've got some green leaves over the roof just like we did before, and a few bushes, and I've got a little dock as I've placed this house on the water. I've still got my wheat patches here and there, and that ties in with the kind of wheat color that we have from the oak, and it just makes the build feel nice and balanced. But I think the red is really nice as it's such a bright pop against this dark backdrop. Our next biome variant is in a spruce biome. One of the things that is readily available in these biomes is mossy cobblestone, so you can see that I swapped out the cobblestone here for this mossy block, and it really does add a spruce biome pop. Of course, I've switched out all the wood for spruce items, and for the roof I've switched out the diorite for this andesite mixture, and I think it ties in well with the colour scheme. Instead of having lots of flowers in my planters, I've placed in these berry bushes and ferns. You can also see that I swapped out the lecterns here for barrel, and I think that's a great way to add in some hidden storage. You could always fill this up with excess supplies from your storage inside. You can also see that I've changed out the colours of my scarecrow here to tie in with the colours of the berries, and this just helps to bring in a little bit of red over this way too. You can see as we check out these biome variants that just by swapping out the blocks used in a build, you can achieve a completely different look. Next up, we have this cherry blossom biome house. Now this one looks strikingly different from the last. Of course, you can see that we've used plenty of the cherry wood, but I've swapped out the roof for cherry planks, and then I've done my edging in the granite here. Now if you don't like granite, you could swap this out for diorite, and actually I have missed 1 wall here, so let's go ahead and add this in, but I think the granite has a nice pink hue that ties in well with the cherry wood. You can also see that instead of lecterns, I've gone ahead and used looms here, and they have that same sort of pinkish hue as the granite, and I think it ties together well. You can also see that I'm using some more of these polished granite slabs to swap out for these here campfires, again to tie in better with my colour scheme. Another thing you can note is that for the greenery used around this build, I haven't used the cherry blossom leaves, and that's just because this build is already very pink as it is. So I've gone ahead and used azalea, but if you don't have access to azalea leaves, you could use cherry blossom and it still would look fantastic, just extra pink. Or you could go out and find perhaps some oak leaves or some birch leaves, and that is another great way to bring in some of that greenery. For the flowers, I've stuck to a colour scheme of pink, so we've got some of the pink petals dotted here and there, we've got the peonies, pink tulips, and then we've got some lily of the valley as well. You can see I've also used some of the cherry blossom saplings, but make sure when you place those in, they're in places where our tree doesn't have a likelihood of growing. You'll also notice that I've decorated around this build a little bit differently. Since this has such a pretty feel, I've put all of my farms down below hidden away, and I've gone ahead and placed some more decorative options up top. I've got a little seating area with a campfire on this side, and over on this side I have a picnic table with a cake. Since I'm keeping aesthetics in mind for this build, I've even matched my animals in the pen to the colours, so I've got some pigs. And then down below I can expand a massive basement for all of my survival needs. I've got a few farms up here, but I've strategically chosen these beetroot as they have a more pink hue and the green is quite lush. The last thing I want to look at for this particular variant is how I've done the wood shed or hay cover at the back. So since we don't have oak, and oak would be quite a juxtaposition from the pink hues in this build, I've created a more textural cover like this using some trapdoors, stairs, and some of the slabs. And I've placed the cherry logs underneath here instead of the hay to tie in with the colour palette, although you could absolutely put some hay down here. For our next biome variant, we have travelled to a flower forest, and the main wood type found here is the birch, so this same design will work great in a birch forest too. You can see I've swapped out all the wood for birch, except for around here where I've got my wood cover where I've stuck to the oak, and you can find a little bit of oak in flower forests too, and the oak just works a bit better with these campfires. But everything else we've switched to the birch. Another thing you can see that I've switched out is that instead of having lecterns here, I've got these honey-filled hives. One of the things we can find in a flower forest is plenty of bees, so I've utilized this to add a fun touch, and I get plenty of honey and bee friends around my flowery biome. For the greenery, I've also switched to the birch leaves, and they have a more subtle colour which works well for this build as it really allows the flowers to pop. If I take a step back, you can see that I've very simply added some wheat to this garden, as there is so much visual interest with all of these flowers that I don't really need to do any landscaping. We just want the flowers to be the showcase here, and we've got such a beautiful build as a backdrop for all of them. I hope you enjoyed creating this starter house. If you did, I'd really appreciate it if you consider liking and subscribing, and check out my Patreon to support me further and get some awesome benefits. I'll see you in another video.